If you are not close to things, though, this kind of goes back to my philosophy with cabins on the Cumberland. If you're not in an ideal location, you have to make the campground a destination in and of itself. If people are just driving by or passing through or whatever, why are they coming to stay with you? If you're a drive-through destination on to the next place, you've got to create the experience there. Hey everyone, welcome to this fun episode of Branded and Booked. I'm excited to dive into this one with you guys today. So one of the reasons that I shouldn't say it started with this, but now that it has evolved into we're actually doing the thing, one of the drivers for us doing camper life this year is that we would love to buy a campground. When we started investing in short-term rentals and then cabins on the Cumberland, I knew that we were going to continue investing in some capacity. I knew that this was a path for us to be able to build wealth. And in terms of what that looks like, I think there's a lot of different options and ways you can do. There are a lot of different options and ways you can build wealth through real estate. But for me, with my background in branding and marketing, being able to find properties that we can transform into true experiences, it's totally in my wheelhouse. And I really, as much as I love the like single family short-term rental side of things and think it can be great, I also really love the idea of our cabins. I really love the idea of being able to kind of take what you're doing and put it into one larger project, and really have more of that like commercial asset. And thus enter our next kind of thing that I would love for us to do, which is have a campground, but not just any campground. And over the last roughly month or so, or no, sorry, 2 months now that we have been on the road, I have learned so much. And I feel very strongly that if you want to buy a campground, you need to live this lifestyle. Like you need to buy a camper, you need to go stay in campgrounds because there are so many things that I've noticed in living this lifestyle that I'm like, oh, okay, like the buy box that I had for campgrounds, well, it's completely changed. Not completely, but there have definitely been things that have been added to it. So I'm going to take time in this episode today. You guys know I'm very much about documenting the journey. I think when we can document our process and document the journey, I am at the very beginning of this. Like, we have not even looked at campgrounds. We have not even run numbers on anything. I am just purely doing market research right now and observing and learning and figuring out what we like, what we don't like, what we want to make sure that we would incorporate, and so forth. So, this episode today is very much going to be about what we've noticed and what I've seen. And if we were to buy our own campground, what I'd be doing. The other thing I will tell you guys, I feel a little bit, I don't know what the word is. I can't think of the word. I feel like I just want to find land and build our own. I know that that is probably not the most economical. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Again, haven't run the numbers, but with building the cabins, man, we obviously manage properties, as you guys know, and I'm not kidding. Every time that people buy properties, they just deal with a lot of problems. And I'm just like, this is why I would just rather build. Like, I'd rather just build something brand new and start from scratch. My brain also has a really hard time being able to see something in a really gross looking form and being like, oh, here's how we can transform that. I am not great at that. I am great at a totally blank slate and going, okay, this is clear land. This is like exactly what I did for the cabins. We have 9 acres of wide open space here. What can we bring to life in this area? Like, what can we do here? And that was really fun. So thinking about finding an old or abandoned campground, or thinking about finding something that's existing, but how do we transform it, is really challenging for me. And I don't like to settle. Like, it's just not who I am. So I'm not like, oh, like, let's just get into this and then we'll do the next thing. I'm like, no, 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 no. I go all the way in, all like head first, full dive all the way in. So it's difficult for me to just be like, oh, let's just find something that's existing and transform it. And I'm going to tell you why. So a couple of things, few things, and then this may feel like a little bit sporadic because this is how my brain works sometimes, but I want to share with you some of the things that I've really liked. And then I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've noticed that I'm like, ooh, I did not love this. So probably my favorite campground, two of my favorite campgrounds that we stayed at so far. One was the Alpine Valley RV Resort, and that is located in Alpine, Wyoming. And you're about an hour-ish away from Grand Tetons and Jackson. So that's kind of to give you guys location. This campground is in a beautiful setting in the mountains. It's absolutely stunning. It's pretty big. But the lots, you guys, the lots were like beautifully landscaped. There was hardscaping actually, like actually landscaping on our site where there was like river rock and beautiful greenery and shrubs and all kinds of things that were happening at this site. Not to mention that it was actually, if I'm remembering correctly, they were all paved sites. So all the sites were paved, and there was a really large seating area, like patio seating area, that was also super nice. And they had a table and six chairs out there, but not just like not it was not just a picnic table. Like it was like an actual nice outdoor table with the metal chairs that were their brand color. And I was like, okay, good for you. I will tell you guys from a branding and marketing perspective, all of these campgrounds have room for growth. They have opportunity for growth. And even the booking process in most of them is like, this is bad. So I'm like, okay, there's so much opportunity here. But anyway, so that was stunning. Spaces, the lots, like the spot that you pick, so much space between you and your neighbors, phenomenal. Um, I don't remember there being a ton of trees, which was fine. Um, they had a beautiful playground for the kids, and that was super nice for our boys because they it was right across the way from where our spot was, and these are again all the little things that I noticed, but the ground over there was not just mulch. It was the like rubber tires made to look like mulch. So if they fell, it was a kind of softer landing, which I personally think, and this may be part of like I don't know if that's part of the, hey, if you're going to have a playground and it's in a commercial space, this is what you have to have. That very well could be in that area, but it was super nice. The playground was very well done. Um, Everything felt very clean. One of the other things I loved about this campground is that their bathhouse was individual. So their bathrooms and their showers were individual like rooms that you would go into. And so it was like your own single bathroom basically. And that was super nice. I loved that. So it wasn't a like you walk in and it's like several stalls and then several shower stalls combined. It was you walk into one and that is your space. And that was really nice. Now we don't use those a lot at the campgrounds unless we're at the playground and someone has to go to the bathroom and whatever. We do that. But we don't use the showers and stuff. But very, very clean facilities. I really liked that. They did have laundry on site as well. So that was part of that bathhouse feature too. Everything has been coin laundry, which I know is another way to make money at these campgrounds. I do, but I'm like, and I'd have to do more research on this, but this is one of those things. If you're thinking about buying a campground, and I've talked to so many of you who are interested in this, but seriously, I seriously believe you should not be able to buy a campground unless you live this lifestyle, like unless you buy a camper and go experience it, because every campground is different. But anyway, I'm like, instead of charging people for laundry, what if you just offered free laundry and increase the rates? Does that make sense? Does it not? I don't know. I really would have to do the numbers on that and learn a little bit more. I'm not the expert there. I'm not sure. But that seems like it makes sense in my brain. I don't know. So that was all really nice there. And again, just the mountain views. They did have like a tiny little walking trail that would take you back by the river as well. That was nice. They also had a water feature as you go into the park. And I figured out later why this is the case. The guy who owns this park also owns a rafting company there. And so there, when you come into the park, there's a rafting feature and there are like bears on a raft. And it's like a waterfall feature, but it has like a statue of the bears in a raft. And it was really cute. The other thing that I noticed about this place that I thought was so interesting, they were under construction on a lodge on site. So this lodge is going to have apartments. I think it will also have other places to stay. It will also have an indoor pool. It will also be their check-in office. And I was like, that right there, that is genius to have that indoor space, you guys. And I'm taking pieces of what I've learned at Cabins on the Cumberland. We have been able to significantly increase our ADR because of our game center, because we have this indoor space that when people come, if it's way too unbelievably hot outside, they have this nice, cool indoor space where they can play games. And same thing for the wintertime. They have a warm space where they can go and play. And that's exactly what they're creating there, right? They're creating this indoor pool area and it just gives their guests another amenity. That is one of the things that I have learned with kids, with traveling with kids. I hands down a pool at every campground. We've only stayed at a couple that have actually had any kind of pool. Our campground, oh man, actually, okay, there's three campgrounds that were my favorites that I'm going to tell you guys about. Our campground in Steamboat was really good. So anyway, Alpine Valley was probably my favorite. I think honestly my second favorite was West Yellowstone, and we stayed at Grizzly. It was like the Grizzly RV Park in West Yellowstone or something along those lines. Grizzly was there, and that was like the big piece. It is practically walking distance to the West Yellowstone Park entrance. We actually could ride our bikes there. We could ride our bikes right around town. So it's like right in the heartbeat of West Yellowstone. This RV park was also, oh my gosh, the trees at this RV park were beautiful. And now I know that this is actually a point of contention. Not every RVer loves trees. You guys, when you're driving, ours is 42 feet, but a 45-foot trailer, and I'm not kidding, they get bigger than this. We've seen some crazy things that I didn't even know happened in this industry, right? So people drive their motor coaches, which I'm gonna not say the correct thing here, but they're class A's and they're like the really, really nice ones. I mean, these things can go up to $1 million, okay? Like they're insane. But they're my children lovingly refer to them as the bus campers, all right? They are that's what they look like to them. You guys, people drive these and I don't know how long they are. I would guess maybe 35 to 40 feet. Then they drive these giant trailers behind them with either their stuff inside of them or their toys like their ATVs, their motorcycles, their cars. Like we've seen all kinds of stuff come out of the back of these trailers. And I'm like, this is insane. So when you're trying to navigate a campground, when you're trying to navigate a campground that A doesn't have like wide enough turn radius in each of its different, like when you're turning down specific aisles and it's really clear how you're going to get out, when a campground hasn't thought through that, and then also there's the trees, that makes it really difficult for those larger vehicles to get in. Now, I know that not every campground is set up. There actually were some campgrounds that we looked at that there was no space for us. Like we could not fit there. And they were like, sorry, it's like 35 feet or smaller. That also is not what I want either. In thinking through, okay, our purchase of a campground, I want to make sure that we can accommodate these larger guys because listen, if you're spending 750,000 to $1 million or whatever it is, they're not all that much, but we've looked up the pricing on some of them and I'm like, this is nuts. If you're doing that, you're probably willing to spend a little bit more to A, be in a great location, and that significantly matters, and B, be at more of a resort and have those resort-like amenities. So anyway, this campground in West Yellowstone, what I loved about it was the sites themselves. I did personally love the trees. And then what I really loved was that I did hang my hammock up. Now, I will tell you guys on their rules, it did say like don't hang your hammock up. I read that after I had already done it. So I was like, okay. That I think is so strange to me because I mean, we tent camped a lot. So we were so used to stringing our hammocks up on the trees and sitting there and hanging out. If I were to have a campground, if you don't want to have people hang there, and I get it, like you're trying to protect the trees, and I really do understand, like there's a level of protecting nature, but what about a hammock forest? I'm like, okay, what if we had a whole area where there were trees that were perfectly spaced out to be able to string and bring like a bring your own hammock section, right? This is our hammock forest, bring your own hammock, find a place to hang it. I don't know. I've thought about that. And again, I'd have to do more investigating on protecting the nature and protecting the trees. That's a big thing. And if you are going to build a campground, I wouldn't say everybody, but I would say that a lot of people do genuinely care about nature and protecting the environment. And so, which is funny because we drive like diesel trucks to do that. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. We all have to just like pick our battles. But that is one thing that I'm like, okay, I would love to have some kind of a hammock forest where we can be out together in nature. The other thing I loved about the Grizzly RV site, I think that site, the site itself was gravel. So like the space where we pulled was gravel. They had a giant concrete pad where there was a picnic table and we bought a mountain mat and it's huge. Why we bought this giant one, I don't know. But we had it out and my kids played out there every day with their toys and they loved it. Had a great time. So I loved all of the space that we had. Again, it felt like we had a good distance from our neighbors, which was really nice. They also had the tire mulch at the playground. And now their playground left a little bit to be desired for everybody. And commercial playgrounds are not cheap. They're just not. And I don't know that that was necessarily a commercial playground, to be honest with you. It could have used a revamp. Their facilities were pretty clean, like there were different bathhouses. It was a massive park. I mean, we were site 191. So it was big. They did have a nice camp store that was really well stocked. So if you needed things for your RV, if you needed things for your adventures inside of West Yellowstone, whatever, they had that. They also had a great kids area full of children's books and toys and stuffed animals, and they had stickers, and that was really fun. So that was a good experience. And I think the biggest thing I saw there was I loved the trees and the just like having that concrete pad to have enough space to be able to go out there and play and be able to have your picnic table out there. Awesome. The last one that I really love that I'm going to tell you guys about, and then I'm going to tell you all the things that I've noticed that I was like not a super fan of. The last one was Steamboat Springs. We actually stayed at a KOA in Steamboat Springs. And so this is the other thing that as we're kind of taking a look at this, we have to decide. And if you're thinking about buying a campground, you may also want to think through. KOAs are individually owned, but it's a franchise, right? So you are kind of bound by the KOA brand and their standards. And at most of the KOAs where we've stayed, they do all offer kind of something unique and different, but they do also have KOA branded chairs and KOA branded picnic tables and that kind of thing. But our site in Steamboat, the KOA there was so nice. This one did have a pool. You know what? It had a pool for like adults and older kids. It also had a small, like super shallow pool. And I hate to even say it was a baby pool, but I mean, it kind of was, I guess, but it was so nice. And both the boys enjoyed playing in that, but it was pretty large too. So that was beautiful, really well done amenity space there. Their playground also was very nice and super well done. They also had chess, like, the like giant chess. They had that. The kids thought that was really fun. They also had mini golf, and my boys have very much enjoyed playing mini golf. The KOA, actually, where we stayed in Mitchell, South Dakota, that also had mini golf and a beautiful, really nice playground, and that was huge. So what I'm kind of sharing with you guys and telling you, our site at the KOA had a really nice concrete area where we all got to sit and hang out, really nice table and chairs, some shade. There were trees throughout that park as well. The thing I loved, oh, here, this is the other thing that I haven't mentioned in any of these yet. The thing that I loved about Steamboat, and maybe this is specifically the area, but I loved that we could bike into town. So we did not have to take our giant dually truck into town every time we wanted to go. We just hopped on our bikes and went. And we were able to do that actually also in Alpine Valley. We biked to a brewery one day, and that was super fun. So being able to be biking distance to a town, same thing with West Yellowstone. We biked into West Yellowstone. So that's huge for our family. And I think this kind of comes back to who are you targeting, right? And who is your ideal target audience? And I think in the what I'm starting to notice and see in this camping world is that there are differences in terms of how people like to camp. Some people really like to boondock, and so they'll just find a spot where they can do that. For those of you that are unfamiliar with that term, essentially you can camp wherever you can find a spot or wherever it's quote unquote allowed. I think you may have to look into that a little bit. But in order to do, you're not going to have full hookups. We are a family that's like, listen, we're not going to stay anywhere right now that doesn't have full hookups. You've got to have sewer, water, and electric, period. And specifically, you have to have 50 amps of electric for this specific camper model that we have. So that's another important piece of the puzzle as well. So being able to be able the ability to bike, have all of those full hookups, really important for us. But some people like to boondock. Some people like to have the full hookups. Some people are like, whatever KOA I can find is great. Some people are like, die hard, the locally owned and operated places. There are all different kinds of opinions. We booked one recently that I am wildly excited about. It is in Key West. It is called the Blue Key Resort, something along those lines. Um, like I said, in Key West, you guys, we are on the water, like on the water. And they have canal spots and then they also have bayfront spots. All of their sites come with your own kind of tiki hut. an outdoor kitchen. I think they may not all come with that, but ours that we got with that we have reserved in March has a tiki hut, an outdoor kitchen, an outdoor seating area, and then also like you can jump off the dock and swim in the ocean. Colin's like, so you want us to swim with the alligators? I'm like, okay, hopefully we won't have to deal with that, but regardless, yeah, so we are really excited about that site. And again, they actually we when we filled all of that information out for them, we actually had to enter what kind of camper we had. We also saw some spots that were like, this is for motor coaches only. And so I'm like, this is so interesting that there's this difference. And again, all of these are things that I'm learning. And without having done this lifestyle, this would have been a lot of information. It is a lot of information to absorb, but now I'm really seeing and experiencing what I like. So, as a recap on the things that I've liked so far, and then I'm going to tell you guys what I have not loved. Number one, if you're traveling with kids, having a pool is really awesome. So whether that's an indoor pool or an outdoor pool or whatever, and some of that may be market dependent, that I think that is huge. Having a playground for kids that is a nice, really well done playground with lots of different things for them to do, and the tire mulch also really great. So having that huge. The bathhouse that has the individual stalls. So it's like you go in, you have your own shower, you have your own bathroom area, and it's not just like walk in, stall, 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 right? It's like you walk in, it's your own space. Loved that. Thought that was huge. The on-site laundry facilities are huge. Like that's how we wash our bedding because it does not fit in the washer and dryer in our camper. So that's great for us. And then sites that are spacious. Spacious sites. The one in Alpine Valley that was hardscaped was beautiful. Plenty of space on the concrete to be able to put out your mat for your kids to be able to go out and play, for you to be able to work out and exercise, just for you to feel like you have space outside of your camper. Because remember, space in here is not huge. And so anytime that we're in here, I'm like, everybody get outside, everybody get outside, everybody get outside. Something that I don't feel like, well, Alpine Valley is working on this, but something that I don't feel like I've seen yet are a lot of really great indoor spaces or gathering spaces. And I've seen so many people who are traveling together and they're all like cramming into one fire pit area. And I'm like, dang, what if you had a community gathering area? Like, what if you had an indoor game center that also had a gathering area to cook or that had those fire pits outside or something? And again, now I know we're talking about a different level than, some people who camp are like, we pay 30 to 50 bucks for our sites a night and like that's all we're going to spend. And that's great. The campground that I want is not probably going to target that group of people. It may be more than that. Now, I will say we have not stayed at a like Jellystone yet. There are a few campgrounds that we haven't stayed at that have been on my bucket list. They've got a water park. They have all this programming for kids. And I will tell you, we're staying for a month at Jellystone in Zion. And it was $33 a night for us, but that was with the monthly discount. So I don't know how much it would be, and we're going to be there in October, so it's kind of like later in the season. I don't know how much it would be if we weren't doing all of that. I'd have to go back and look. But again, when I'm thinking about the campground that I want to build, it is very much experiential, and it is targeting that group of people who has spent potentially 100K or more on their RV. And they are really looking for those more resort-like experiences. We also haven't been to Margaritaville. I don't think that one's on our list of places to go. I've got to check our Florida itinerary again. People rave about that one, and they love it, and they say it's amazing. So, and it's got the food and beverage piece. We haven't experienced that yet either. Nowhere that we've stayed has a restaurant on site or a bar on site or anything along those lines. That I think could be another opportunity and something really cool as an add-on. So those are all of my thoughts on things I've liked, what I've experienced, just general. Okay, things that I have not loved. If you have a campground and you bring families to that campground and you don't have a playground or you have a shitty playground, I it's not my favorite. It's just not my favorite. And we've stayed at a couple of those that were just like left a lot to be desired at the playground area. And even my kids felt that a little bit. So not the greatest experience. Also one of our sites that we stayed at, we pulled in and literally we walked out our door and the telephone pole was like right there. Again, some of that is just, it is what it is and it's site dependent and it kind of depends on where you are. That just felt so inconvenient to me. And also a little bit of a safety hazard. I was like, what happens if there's a really strong storm, tornado, I don't know, and this power line decides to just fall? That thought definitely crossed my mind while we were staying there. So that was not great. Didn't love that. I do not love the campgrounds where it just feels like your neighbors are stacked right on top of you. Like I can walk outside and just like I'm like in my neighbor's space. I don't love that either. We've stayed at a couple of those and it's just not super comfortable. I said this earlier, but I don't love the sites where it actually doesn't feel like they've been built for you driving your giant camper through them and there's no clear exit. You haven't thought through how does somebody get out of this side if somebody else is in this side over here. That's another big piece of the puzzle. And that's something that I'm like, okay, if we want to build, I will really have to think through that or have somebody help us with that layout or that design of how to do that. Um, I think location matters tremendously. We've stayed at a couple of sites that have not been in the most ideal locations, like nothing really around to do. They're not bikeable. We've stayed at a couple of sites that are all gravel, and you guys trust me, I know that pavement costs a lot of money. Paving things is not cheap. I know that, but it's also one of those things that's like, what's the experience you're trying to provide, right? So some of the campgrounds that we picked purely from a budgeting perspective or a like, hey, this is a quick stopover for us. We're not here long and we're moving on to the next place after this. And that was fine. And then other places we splurged for sure. So have to think through who you're targeting. If you are not close to things, though, this goes back to my philosophy with cabins on the Cumberland. If you're not in an ideal location, you have to make the campground a destination in and of itself. If people are just driving by or passing through or whatever, why are they coming to stay with you? If you're a drive-through destination onto the next place, you've got to create the experience there. And it can't just be a like, oh, whatever. We'll just like, here's some sites. Everyone come stay here. So I think really thinking through the destination in and of itself. There have been a couple where okay, this is one thing that I've decided. I do not love when there are bathroom stalls and shower stalls in the same area. You want to know what it reminded me of? College. Like my college dorm that did not have AC, that was just felt like nasty all the time. And I'm like, if your shower house and bathhouse has to be combined, then maybe make a side of it like bathroom stalls and maybe the back side of it showers or I don't know, do something different. Because I didn't love that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I haven't really talked much about this. I know that so many people travel with their dogs. So some of the campgrounds, actually probably the vast majority of our campgrounds where we've stayed have had some sort of a dog park area. And I think that's really nice. I also think I actually chatted with somebody who owns KOAs, and he shared with me that having some kind of a dog run at your site is helpful. We have actually seen some KOAs that have that, where I think it was a KOA where we stayed, where I noticed this and I was like, oh, that's interesting. There were specific sites that you could rent if you had a pet that actually had a pet area that was fenced in. Where we stayed in West Yellowstone, I actually saw people who they had pets and they'd brought their like portable fencing to go around their camper area so they could just like let the dog out and let it kind of roam freely and contained within their space. But I was thinking that would be really nice to have sites where your pets can actually, your dogs, you can actually put them in a specific fenced in area that is for them during that time. Now, again, that would have to be cleaned up. You'd have to have specific rules and guidelines around all of that. But I did think that that was a really nice feature for people who are traveling with their pets. Probably will never be us. Dogs are just they're not my jam, you guys. I will tolerate other people's dogs, but they're like not my favorite thing. I'm sure our kids will convince us otherwise someday, but we'll see. But I did think that that was a kind of a cool feature. So the sites that don't have that, I feel like are maybe a little inconvenient for people traveling with their pets, but everybody seems to make it work and it's usually fine. Um, Beyond that, I feel like I've covered everything in this episode that I wanted to kind of go through with you guys in terms of what I've really liked, what we've experienced so far, the things I haven't liked. Um, hmm. I think part of owning a campground really does it really is impacted by who is there and who is on site. This is one thing, I feel like so many of us in this boutique hotel and STR world are trying to be contactless and we're trying to let AI run everything. Campground people are not there. Like they will not enjoy that. They will not appreciate it. A lot of the demographic that we have seen, it depends on the campground, actually. Our first probably four sites, three or four sites, we were like, oh my gosh, are we the youngest people out here? And like, that's fine. But there are a lot of people who are doing this in retirement, and that's great. I love that for them. Once we got into Alpine once we stayed at Steamboat, Alpine, probably those two. That's where I remember seeing the most kids at campgrounds. And again, I think you just have to think through the experience of who are you catering to, and are those families, are those, people who are retired, but all of these people expect to be able to go to a human when there is a problem. I'll give you guys an example of this. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't talked about this. Glad I'm bringing this up. Glad I had that conversation with myself to be able to think through this. Um, the campground where we stayed in Pinedale, Wyoming. If you guys have never been to Pinedale, it's this cute, quaint little western town. So fun. In Pinedale, we stayed at, it was a beautifully well-maintained campground. I swear they mowed every day. Like their lawn was impeccable. It was beautiful. And we had plenty of space between the sites. This is the one where we were able to rent a hot tub. Okay, that was phenomenal. That was such a cool add-on, like rent your own private hot tub. It was $75 for the first night and $45 for every night after that. Great. Awesome add-on. I love that. I will take it. And I think they had a few different hot tubs on site. But you just call them and you're like, hey, I want to have a hot tub, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll bring it over. They fill it up, they add the chemicals, they do the whole thing, and they set it all up for you. That was phenomenal and great experience. That was one that was kind of interesting. There was a front desk. We did check into that. It was a really small area, but anytime I contacted them, they were like on it. So hospitality in this space is so important. And most importantly, right now, what I'm seeing is like that human to human interaction. In Pinedale, we had that hot tub. We all enjoyed it on the first night. The second night, Noah pooped in his swim diaper, which if you are a parent and you have ever experienced this, you know what we dealt with that night. And it was nasty. It was nasty. And maybe I shouldn't have had him in the hot tub. There weren't rules around that. I will tell you that much. There were not rules around it. But it was really gross. And so I called them, and I sent them a text. I sent the host a text, and I said, hey, we want to let you know this happened. This hot tub's going to have to be drained and sanitized, the whole nine yards. We're really sorry. They had someone at our site in 10 minutes. Now, there was a point of contention that night because Colin was like, oh, just take it away. She was going to refill it for us so that we could use it the next couple of nights. And I was a little irritated by that. They actually refunded us. They were like, you guys only used it for a night. We're only going to charge you for a night. They had to do extra work by coming, and it was like 7 o'clock at night. It was not a convenient time for them because y'all know nothing convenient ever happens during convenient hours. It's always the most inconvenient times. But I was so impressed by that hospitality experience, and that reminded me of how important that is in this space for sure. And in any industry that is, for STRs, boutique hotels, it doesn't matter. People want to be taken care of. They're paying for an experience. They're paying for that place to stay. They're paying to be there, and they want to be taken care of. And I think that that is so true in this industry too, which kind of goes back to what I was getting at, this human interaction. We have been greeted by some of the best on-site hosts. They are so friendly. They're very helpful. Some of our sites, actually, we just put our trash at the end of our campground, and they come and pick it up every night. And that was super impressive to me too. So they have like trash services. In other cases, you're taking it to a dumpster, and that's fine too. But very good hospitality. Some of our sites, they will actually take you and drive you to your site and show you where it is. Some of our sites, they've just been like, here it is on a map. This is how you get there. Go park yourself. So I think it depends on the scale of the site and maybe scale of team and who's able to actually help. But that was also interesting. So people do expect to be greeted by a human being. You check in, like that's all pretty standard. So I don't know that you're going to get into a campground without having that. And I think that it's important to have that too. Just that person to person interaction. And everyone in these campgrounds loves to talk. Let me tell you that my husband comes back, he'll take the boys to the playground, and he comes back and he's like, we met so and so today, and this was their life story, and da 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 da. And I'm like, how did this happen? I'm like, we need to do a playground chronicles or something for every time you have a crazy wild news story, because people just talk to you and tell you everything about their lives. But anyway, hopefully this gives you guys some really good context. I know that I may have jumped around and skipped around a little bit, but I feel like I'm learning so much. So I'm documenting this for myself as much as I'm documenting it for all of you. And so at some point, a campground opportunity is going to present itself to us, and it's going to be the perfect opportunity. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. In my head, the campground that we have, I'm like visualizing. In my head, we have no less than 50 sites. 50 sites kind of seems to be the number that makes the most sense economically. So we have a campground that has at least 50 sites. We also have a campground that has multiple ways to stay. So whether those are tiny cabins or they're domes or whatever it might be, but we have something that's in place and structured there for that. We also have a community area, and that's going to for sure be a game center. So some sort of a area where you can go and you can play games. That also could be a gathering area as well, where families can come together and there's a bunch of picnic tables set up and people can hang out and enjoy time together. I imagine us to have fire pit tables, like propane fire pit tables on property as well. Pool for sure. I would love to have a lazy river. I think that that would be fun. Again, I think some of this is location dependent, and I would like to be in an area where we're not going to be as impacted by seasonality as, for example, West Yellowstone or Wyoming, even. Some of those areas, I mean, they don't operate in the winter. And so they're making all of their money. And then I know how that feels, even from our cabins and even our short-term rentals. January and February in our area where we operate suck. They're just not fun months. And so it's like, yeah, summer may be great, but you also have to remember you're saving so that when you have those down months where you're literally negative, you're able to make it up because you have saved and you have managed your cash flow well. So that is something that I've thought about in this space of going, okay, where do we really want to buy? Which leads us to the southern states. And I don't know if I'm going to convince Colin to move there. But we'll see. I know it's also very competitive down there, and it'll be interesting as we move throughout our trip to kind of see the differences between there and what we've experienced here as we've headed west first. And we're kind of coming down through we're going into Washington, down through Oregon, California, and then, we'll hit the kind of southern in the winter time. So we'll see what that looks like. Trying to think through what else. Oh, very spacious sites. My hammock forest, I think, would be awesome. Really awesome camp store. Also a camp store that maybe serves healthier options or like lower tox options. I think we've even talked to people at campgrounds, and these are things that people are thinking about, like how can we use less plastics, etc. And so that is something that I've noticed that I think is kind of interesting. So thinking through that experience as well. Yeah, it would not be a small campground. And I don't want to use the term luxury, but I would use the term experiential, right? We're creating the destination in and of itself. I'd love to be in a great location as well, but if you want to stay and just be here, you're going to be able to do that. So, all right, you guys, I appreciate you as always. I hope that this was a helpful conversation for you today and just hearing my thoughts and as we're processing what I'm taking a look at. Um, yeah, we'll see where the journey leads us from here. All right, everybody, I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll chat so soon. Cheers, everyone.